Summit friends, please welcome to the stage, Connor Rock.
Do y'all feel good today? Good afternoon, Out and Equal. My name is Connor Rock. I'm with HP Inc. I'm so excited to be here. This is my first time back since the pandemic, and it's exciting to see that the momentum has not slowed on this event. So very grateful to be here, very grateful to be here with HP. I'm based in Houston, Texas. So any Houston reps? All right, great. So I'm joined by some friends today from the Houston Pride Business Impact Network. And we don't call our ERGs at HP. We call them Business Impact Networks because we have the fundamental belief that diversity, equity, and inclusion is a business imperative and will help drive our business forward by making sure that we include everybody at the table. When there are more ideas at the table and when people feel empowered to speak up, that helps us move innovation in our business forward. So I'm going to take a step back and talk a little bit about our history. We founded, or we like to say that we founded Silicon Valley. We've been in business since 1939. And these are our two founders, Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard, hence Hewlett-Packard. And they really built our company with the idea of strong community values, strong people values. They actually have a kind of manifesto that was in print for a number of years called the HP Way. It's studied in a few business schools about how to drive really strong corporate objectives with people in mind, which I think is what we're all trying to do here at Out and Equal this week. So the piece of the HP Way that stands out most to me is this one: to meet the obligations of good citizenship by making contributions to the community and the institutions in our society which generate the environment in which we operate. So it all kind of boils up to, we try to go into communities and make them better than we found them. And so that's kind of been our premise as the Houston Business Impact Network over the past year or so. So we're just really excited to take some of those lessons that Bill and Dave taught us and move forward in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and specifically for the LGBTQ population. This is another really powerful visual that I love, because I think we talk a lot about rainbow washing and the intersections of our brand and our identity. But I actually found this a few weeks ago, and this is from 1993, San Francisco Pride. Back then it was Glenn, the Gay and Lesbian Employee Network. Obviously there's a few more populations we're including as part of that. But I think that this is really powerful. This was before the time of attaching your brand to a rainbow or making sure that you were included in a pride parade every year. Our brand was attached to this back in 1993. Now, if you look back at 1993, a lot was going on, right? Homophobia was ultra high in terms of the AIDS crisis, right? Our people needed the support of companies like HP back then as well. So I really love to reflect on this image and think about all the people in this photo and how they really pioneered inclusion for our company, but also how our founders pioneered innovation. So with that said, we've done a few things since then. In 1978, actually, Friends of Dorothy, which I think we all know what that term means, became an informal social group at Palo Alto in HP. Gender identity and expression was added to our equal employment policy in 2003. We've appeared on the HRC Corporate Equality Index at or near 100% since 2003. And then there's some other things in here too that I throw in there, but we really draw on all of Bill and Dave's values as part of our brand to make sure that we're living those values today. But I think a lot of people think of us as a California company, right? We were founded in Palo Alto, Silicon Valley, but we have a growing presence in Texas. So I don't know if folks remember the Compaq brand of yesteryear. Maybe you went to Circuit City and you saw a few Compaq PCs, right? That might be dating me a little bit, but I do remember them quite well. So back in 2003, actually, we acquired Compaq. But it just goes to show, we have offices all over Texas. We have Austin. We recently acquired a brand called Poly. If you've used a headset at work to communicate remotely, you've probably used a Poly headset in your life. They're based in Austin. We've got an office in Dallas and Fort Worth. And then, of course, in Houston. And for those of you who are familiar with the Houston area, we're up in Springs, so kind of near the Woodlands. Like I said, we formed our Houston site in 2003 following our acquisition of Compaq, which automatically made it one of the largest HP sites globally. So as we're a California company, we have really, really strong Texas roots. And in Houston, we have 7 business impact networks. And like I said, it's to deliver on the bottom line for the business. When we drive innovation from all walks of life, we can really move the business forward. And we have over 120 Pride members. So we're really, really proud of that. We really want to continue to grow that number. And that's just a little bit of background on HP and what we do for Pride. But my time is up. I'd also like to introduce some of my other friends. I'd like to introduce Taylor Steck. And I'll be back for Q&A.
All right. So I'm an adopted Houstonian. So I moved to Houston in 2015 for HP, where I'm an executive communications manager. For my gay job, I'm the co-lead of the Pride bin with Connor, and I also oversee our community chair. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Houston's LGBTQ+ history, because as an adopted Houstonian, I have to keep it real with y'all. When I moved to Houston, I was like, I'm not going to be there more than a year. Like, Texas is not on my radar. I honestly don't really want to be there. I'm on year 8 now. I absolutely love it. And I think that there's a lot to be learned from what's happening at the urban level in a lot of our cities in the South. And before that, I was in Birmingham, Alabama, for any Alabama people out there. And I think it's very similar, the rhetoric between, pushing forward in the cities, even if the state rhetoric is very harmful. So I'm going to walk through just a brief LGBTQ+ history here. There's some really fantastic stuff on a Historian LGBTQ+ website. I encourage you, if you're a local, to check that out at some point. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the marriage of Billy Urton and Antonio Molina in 1972. So this was the first marriage in Texas between 2 members of the same sex, and one of the first in the United States. One thing that's really interesting about it is when they went to the Harris County Clerk office. Harris County is the principal county where Houston is, by the way. Urt was dressed in drag, and the county clerk did not ask for gender identity. So technically, it was a marriage between a man and a woman, and later that was legally taken down. But it made national news, and 1972 was a really long time ago at this point. It was a really early pivotal moment in terms of the conversation around marriage equality that, of course, changed in the 2010s. But this is a very early example. Next, the Texas Gay Political Caucus was founded in Houston in 1975. It is the oldest LGBT civil rights organization in the southern United States. That organization continues today as the Houston LGBTQ+ Political Caucus, where they advocate for LGBTQ+ inclusive politicians. Next, the first annual Houston Transgender Unity Banquet was hosted in 1992. That annual event continues to this day. And then next, this one is very interesting. So Lawrence v. Texas, I'm sure many of you are at least slightly familiar with this one. In 1998, Jeff Lawrence received a misdemeanor because he was having sexual intercourse with another man when the police showed up at his door. So in 1998, he received a misdemeanor for this. And this went all the way up to the US Supreme Court. And in 2003, in a 6-3 ruling, the US Supreme Court declared all sodomy statutes unconstitutional, which also opened the door for further discussions about the marriage equality movement in the 2010s. One thing that I think is super interesting on this one is 14 states had sodomy statutes that were determined to be unconstitutional, one of which is Texas and one of which is Florida. So I think that's a theme you'll see a lot in our presentation. There are a lot of commonalities between what is happening in Texas and what is happening in Florida at both the state and the local level. And then next, Mayor Anise Parker was elected as the first openly lesbian mayor of a major city where she served 3 terms. This is a really huge milestone because by this definition, a major city is a city that has 100,000 or more people. And by 2009, Houston was already the 4th largest city in the country with over 2 million people. So this was a major milestone. Another thing that's worth noting here is that even though she's a progressive Democrat, she had bipartisan support. Former First Lady Barbara Bush actually nominated and endorsed her, and the broader Bush family also endorsed her. So this was a really good showing of bipartisan support in the Houston area. And then finally, and I think this is why representation really matters in terms of who we elect, Anise Parker appointed Phyllis Frye as the first out transgender judge in the United States and the world. So not everything on here was, rosy and great, but in general, I think it really highlights that Houston has been pivotal both locally, nationally, and internationally from an LGBTQ plus history standpoint. However, for any of you who have been following state politics across the Southeast, there is more at stake than ever before. So in the latest Texas legislative session, there were 140 anti-LGBTQ plus bills that appeared, and many of which have been enabled. So some of those went into effect September 1st, some of them are going into effect January 1st, and some of them are being disputed by the ACLU, but they follow a very similar pattern to what we've seen in other states such as Florida with anti-trans healthcare bans, anti-trans sport bans. There's one being contested right now about drag queen performances, banning books, etc. So a lot of the similar harmful rhetoric that we see in Texas at the state level that affects Houston is very similar to what's happening here in Orlando in Florida. So we talked about how we wanted to kind of advance our BIN, as Connor pointed out, that's like our ERG, beyond the walls of HP. However, as you probably all experienced between 2020 and 2022, the COVID-19 pandemic had a huge effect on our membership, even within the walls of HP. So these are some of the challenges we've encountered over the last couple years before we wanted to emerge and really support the Houston community at a broader level. So first, we had Pride leadership turnover during the pandemic. As I'm sure many of you experienced at your own companies, people moved to work remotely. People had other obligations that came up. So we had a dwindling leadership team to support a fully remote workforce, which is a huge challenge. I think we really appreciated HP's very scientific-based and deliberate approach to returning to the office. However, I think that made it really hard for us to engage, even now as we're in a very hybrid model. And then finally, utilizing our resources to ensure the highest return on investment and build local support. I'm sure many of you are reading this and you're thinking, that means budget, which it does, but I think I would frame it from the standpoint of we want to look at the goals that we want to achieve at the beginning of the year and get the most bang for our buck based on the budget that we're given. I think we had, a kind of structured way of utilizing our budget in the past before COVID and before the world and our needs evolved a little bit, but we really took the time to revisit that over the last couple years so that we could best fit our engagement, not only within HP, but also in the greater Houston area. So addressing these challenges to rebuild in a reopened office in a world, we recruited and empowered new leadership to accelerate BIN growth. So we have 4 of us here today, but we have other folks in this picture who've done an amazing job to stand up various pillars within our organization in Houston. They've really grown both the internal programming within the walls of HP from a development standpoint and our community outreach and engagement with other companies and nonprofits in the area so that we can have a greater impact at the city level as well. Next, we had a safe return to office with hybrid programming over the last year or so. I would say our engagement in the office, not just for our BIN, but HP as a whole, has increased a lot over the last year. But one thing that's interesting from a geography standpoint, and I think a lot of companies in other cities are probably like this, is our office is 30 miles away from Houston downtown, but the historically LGBTQ plus neighborhood is 1 mile west of downtown. So one thing that we needed to do was meet people where they were, whether they lived near the office, whether they worked in the office, whether they mainly worked remote. So we really diversified where we meet people and where we execute our programming. And then finally, we developed a business case for overall intended Pride budget for the fiscal year. And this isn't just vouching to the federated body who provides a budget for you, but it's also about, what goals do we want to set out and achieve for the year so that we can get the best bang for our buck. So we really took a look at, how we wanted to change our mix of where we spent money and why. And that's something that goes back to that first piece about empowering new leadership. We really wanted to make those connections so that the leadership team could elevate our message, not just within HP, but also in the broader community. So what did we do next? You'll hear a little bit more about this in the coming slides, but the first thing that we did that we changed for 2022, we started this conversation in early 2022, is we engaged with the Greater Houston LGBT Chamber of Commerce. This was a pivotal juncture for us in terms of engaging with the local community and the local business community. You'll see more about how we've had impact there. But this was very much a change from our previous model of, hey, most of our development is within the walls of HP. And then during Pride Month, maybe we'll dabble a little bit in Houston Pride outside of the walls. But this is really creating those connections, some of whom I recognize in the crowd tonight from other companies, and really making greater impact in the Houston area. So what is a Chamber of Commerce? Which, by the way, a Chamber of Commerce is more the name that we associate in the United States. Some of you in other countries may hear this as a business alliance, but a Chamber of Commerce is a local organization of businesses whose goal is to further the interests of businesses, often with a specific community or need in mind. So in this case, the LGBT chambers across the country vouch for LGBTQ+ and ally small businesses, and they also facilitate the relationship between those small businesses and the ally corporations that are located in that area. And I'm about to show a Slido, and I'm going to invite Marcus Wade on the stage. So get your phones out if you're in the room so you can participate. And if you're joining us from the web, open a new browser tab and go to slido.com and enter HP Pride into the Slido, the blank space on the Slido website. So the question we want to ask is, are you aware of an LGBT chamber or similar organization in your city? I see a few people responding. We have some yeses, we have some nos. Both of those are good answers because we have answers for both of those. We'll give it maybe about 20 more seconds. Oh, it's a solid, just around a solid 50-50 right now. Awesome, so it's a pretty even split between knowing whether you have a chamber in your city or not. So I'm gonna invite Marcus up here, and you can walk through.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Oh, I feel like y'all could be louder. How's everyone doing today? Okay, much better. So my name is Marcus Wade, as Taylor mentioned. So I am, my day job is I'm a product manager in our services solutions organization. But my gay job is I am the co-lead for our Pride programming. So myself and Gaston, who's also here, we plan out all the Pride events for Pride Month for our site. And so talking about the chamber, and so as we kind of see, not a lot of people know if there's a chamber in your area. So let's change that. So here is a current map of all the active US affiliate chambers in the US. And so that kind of represents 50+ chambers across the US, with majority of those chambers being located in the top 50 metropolitan areas. And there are also 26 global affiliates that span across the different regions. And so this is from the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, so we can definitely share that information with you guys after this talk. But yeah, so this is only a few. It took me a while to create this map, so I wasn't able to get everyone, but I was able to get majority. So with that, so here's what the chamber does. As Taylor mentioned, the chamber, it brings together businesses, small businesses and ally businesses, specifically for the Houston LGBTQ plus Chamber of Commerce, to really be that leading economic voice to ensure that there is economic parity with our LGBTQ businesses as well as our allied businesses. And really their mission is to really drive that economic parity, and also, and that'll be through like strong network of business allies, innovative programs, strategic partnerships, and advanced policies that foster economic inclusion and equity. And so kind of talking about like our partnership with our chamber. So we kind of look at it in 3 different ways to ensure that as HP, we're able to strengthen our commitment to our city. And the first one is the talent pool. So the chamber in Houston comprises of over 400 members. That is individual members as well as corporate members. With this, when you look at your business, this really gives you an opportunity to bring in diverse talent from these specific areas. So if you're looking for LGBTQ plus talent, you could source from your local chamber. And also this can help drive your DEI initiatives when it comes to ensuring that you have in a very diverse, inclusive work environment. We also look at the local impact. So it was mentioned earlier that there were 140 bills in Texas alone of anti-LGBTQ legislation. And so being part of a chamber not only helps with the business impact, but also we want to take a look at what's going on politically and how can the corporations and partners help influence the area to ensure that these bills don't come to fruition, because we don't want that to really impact our community. Then we look at brand awareness. So within the Houston Chamber of Commerce, there is a $3.7 trillion buying power of the LGBT plus community. And so you would think that is pretty significant. We hold a lot of power when it comes to buying. So I would also make a bet that in your city, there is a huge buying power within the community. And so when we talk about our members, so here's a few right here. So there are some that this is only a few, there's many more within Houston. But if any representatives are here today, we would love to connect with you, whether it is during the summit or when we are back in Houston. And so here's how we justified supporting the Chamber of Commerce. So we looked at it in 2 different areas. One is tactical, and the second is strategic and business value. So when we look at tactical, we first identified an executive sponsor, which I'm going to do a little shout out right now because our executive sponsor for our Houston Pride Bins here, Aaron. So we could not be doing what we're doing without his continuous support and always pushing us and always having us do these types of things. And also, we also found an internal champion. That could be your executive sponsor or anyone that truly wants to make a change and drive change within your organization. So it could be another manager, it could be yourself. You could be that internal champion. How can you influence others in your organization to support your local chamber and to support your community? And then also building that visibility around the partnership and its impact. So as you kind of heard, like there is so many different ways that it can be impactful to not only your business as well as the community, and you can show that. So when we look at strategic and business value, so we're connecting to the greater Houston LGBTQ plus community. So for instance, like for me, I started with HP a year ago. I was an intern, but I came on full time in May, and I became on a part of the leadership team. And I didn't know that the chamber existed. So internally within HP, it's one, getting more people within our company connected into the greater LGBTQ plus community, but also showing that as a partner, we can bring in other corporations that we work with or anyone else and just be very, educate them on who's here, what's going on. And then also we ensuring like our brand reputation as an LGBT plus inclusive employer in the region. So for HP as a company, we have 100% for the HRC employee index. So we always want to ensure that we make sure that we put our actions into words and that we stick to them. So, and then also just moving the collective needle on the LGBT plus equality region through our partnership. So we just want to make sure, even though like we are very inclusive and we want to ensure that everyone feels included and there is that DEI piece, but we also want to ensure that we keep pushing the boundaries. How can we be more involved next year? What are our goals that we want to achieve? How can we get others involved? And so I have another slide out for you, another poll. Well, not a poll, but so for those who have maybe interacted with your similar organization or Chamber of Commerce in your city, I kind of want to know, what obstacles have you faced within your company to try and get involved? And so you can just type in, and there'll just be a bunch of, you can type in a word, and then they'll populate here. Okay, so I see a few coming in. So cost is a big one. I do see fear, political background, time, funding, budget, red tape. Yeah, fear, political backlash. Okay, so it seems like there's a theme is the major buckets that we see is budget, so cost, the time, and then a political backlash. And definitely depending of where you are in the US or what country you're in, there can definitely be a fear of that backlash. But I think there are ways that you can kind of walk through and really ensure that if you plan everything out and get that strategy and that framework, you're able to kind of get past that red tape and help alleviate some of that fear. And that's something that we've had to do as a BIN in Houston for some of the things that we've done this past year. And we're more than happy to to talk that out as well, one-on-one if you would like. But I really appreciate y'all taking the time to do this. So I guess kind of moving into the next slide is, so this is what it's meant for HP so far. So supporting small businesses by expanding local LGBTQ+ affirming suppliers and providing direct assistance. So I want to shout out, so this last year during the Chamber's holiday event, we gave out about 100 displays to the small businesses and nonprofits who are Chamber members. So really seeing that impact of being able to give back to the community, so then we can see those small businesses and those nonprofits grow and thrive for what they're needing. The next one is growing partnerships with other large corporations to grow and expand programming and learnings. So this one is really great. Within Houston, within some of the ERG's partners within the Chamber, we actually started a grassroots program where we're meeting monthly with different ERG leaders from different companies within the Chamber, such like Exxon. I know Amegy is one of them. So we were able to kind of sit down, get to understand like, what are these ERGs doing? How can we benefit? What can we give? And how can we work together as a collective within the Houston area? And then also connecting with local nonprofits and philanthropy groups to expand local support. So during Pride Month, one of our events was to actually participate, and we partnered with a nonprofit called Montrose Grace Place. They are an LGBTQ-focused nonprofit that provides resources to homeless LGBTQ youth. And that was very impactful. It was a great event, really great turnout. And so next one is, here's where we're trying to go to. Working with the Chamber and partners to advocate for increasing the Houston HRC Municipal Equity Index score. So I mentioned HP as a corporation. We hit 100 for our HRC index score, but for Houston, we're not at 100 yet. And that's something that as collectively as a Chamber and with the corporate partnerships, we should be striving to get to 100. And then connecting with more local LGBTQ+ and allied businesses and integrating them as a local supplier. So one thing that we did also during our Pride Month was we hosted a company happy hour in our site, and we brought in local LGBTQ+ suppliers who are members of the Chamber or their allied businesses. We also brought in a drag queen for our first ever drag bingo for our site, and that was huge. So really tapping into the community and really giving back and being able to provide brand awareness for them and showing that we support them. And then the last one is collaborating with the Chamber to continuously learn and advocate for stronger inclusion in the workplace in our community. So as you kind of saw earlier, that there was 140 anti-LGBTQ+ legislations in Texas alone. So that is something that the Chamber is really pushing for to kind of have those partners to help influence so those don't come into fruition. So I think with that, I'm going to pass it on to my friend and colleague Gaston to get us wrapped up here. Yep.
Hey, how you doing? Good? Good? Great, great. So yeah, as he said, my name is Gaston. I'm a user experience product designer for HP, but my gay job is part of the Pride programming this year. And you maybe noticed something. I don't have a HP t-shirt today. So one of the activities that we recently were part of the chamber in Houston, they did an educational event where like they partnered with the Texas Civil Rights Project, and they were explaining to us like the different topics for the new drag ban that is being established in Texas, well also here now. So what my teacher says is, oh, sorry, the microphone. What my teacher says is like, yeah, drag is not a crime. So I'm gonna ask you, please give me a big applause if you agree with this. Drag is not a crime. So moving forward, I want to kind of give you some tips of this master plan of how can we do this. So first of all, something we ask you to identify a champion level person, like we have our executive sponsor with us that can help you. If you don't have the resources, because I mean, like we are part of a big company, probably we have, another type, just find someone that make it happen, like someone that can help you and push over what the needs you have. Secondly, is like also find a chamber on your city or state. If you don't have a chamber, maybe a business organization that can actually be part of it, or a small community will help as well. And after that, utilize everything there, like to support like your relationship with the chamber or the business organization. So there's something that we're gonna give you, some type of template that we call it business justification pager. So it's kind of like, and I'm going to share this later, but I'm gonna walk you through what we have there. So first is like identifying the cost and the cadence of that collaboration that you're gonna have or participation. Secondly, gonna be the HRC corporate equality score. Like Marcus, he mentioned, the HRC has like different guidelines for like how much the score are from different companies. And it's good to know because when you are looking for like specific type of relationship, you wanna try to find the best, right? And the third point here is like how many companies are part of that chamber of organization. So bigger the company, bigger the alliances, so it's better for your benefit. And then I have two more buckets here. Like one is basically like how your membership will benefit the company. So we have some bullets there, point like can it be identified as, like you can create to justify your participation, but also how the membership will impact on the community. And this is important because as a company, you wanna be seen as a leader on diversity and inclusion, and especially for talent acquisition, I guess it's very good to have these topics. The next one is another one very similar. It's like, let's say the after one, we have how you measure your value. So following the same template, we have the cost, the HRC, the number of companies, but also how your membership actually benefited your company. What happened, what value was brought to your company, right? And also how you still helping the community. So something before I move forward is like, we have this attached into the app. So if you go to the session that we have today, you scroll down, you will see attachment. We have this deck over there, so you can use it as a template in the future for you. So it's very, very easy to download. So what's next? Once you actually did all these steps and it's working, it's good to actually continue elevating your partnership, right? So, so we always like try to make sure that we have like clear needs. Let's say, what are our clear needs from the chamber? Where is the value that we want from them? Because from different companies we can have different needs. Also, it's very important to continue engaging. Not because you're a part of the chamber, it's just like you don't do anything, right? Like we are lucky in Houston, our chamber, they host a lot of events. They're like weekly things going on, different topics, not just happy hour. It's not about just drinking, it's also like doing some work there. And the third one, if you have the opportunity also, is like participated in global, local politics going on, aligned with the chamber, aligned with your government affair team, or whatever you have under your resources. So that being said, before the questions and answers, anything of this will be possible without our team. We had great leaders this year. A lot of people are making a lot of effort and working. Unfortunately, they cannot be here, but I guess they're watching me now, hey? So yeah, thank you very much, you guys. You're awesome. So yes, so I will call all my friends here for the question and answer so we can respond accordingly. Thank you.
I think there's a mic runner around here. I see a few questions. I saw the first one in the back.
Hello, mic 7. Hi, I'm Jamie Westerhold, she, her, from the National Center for Transgender Equality. So I'm delighted to hear about the partnerships and work with the Chamber all the time, so great recommendation. I was curious, we've had a hard time with 140 Texas bills, 509 anti-trans bills specifically across the country, getting companies to stand up on those. And it sounds like you all have been doing that and working at the local level, and I was wondering if you could give recommendations to folks in the room on how they could encourage their corporations to stand up and speak out against those anti-trans bills.
Yeah, I think I'll take this one if you're okay with that. So I think the benefit to joining a chamber is the chamber oftentimes pens the document, and they're the ones that have the logos behind them, and they can actually assess the economic power of all of the companies that are a part of their membership. So I think that it can be very tricky to get your government affairs team to engage in that way, but I think when we support the chamber, right, the chamber ensures that we are supporting them and that they're able to kind of pen the document. I think back in February, they had a day at the Capitol, and it was all of the Texas chambers. So they were able to go and advocate on our behalf. So I think that that's kind of the benefit to joining a chamber is you may not have to directly pen the document or get your chief legal officer to be involved or government affairs, but the more you lean on the chamber and be really clear about your needs and concerns, the more that they can help articulate that. And it's just power in numbers, right? Our economic value of the Chamber of Commerce in Houston is huge. They partnered with the chambers in Dallas and Austin and San Antonio, I think. Mm-hmm. And they were able to have kind of more of a united front when they approached politicians. Now, I'll specify that, or I'll, make clear that they're not always listening, right? Politicians might not necessarily believe in the economic power of the chambers, but the more that we can support our chambers, not just from a sponsorship perspective, but even sponsoring the businesses within those chambers, that is really powerful as well. Next question, yes, right here.
Hello, my name is John. I'm with the Walt Disney Company, pronounce he, him, his. I really appreciate this conversation because you all are a sort of a chapter of an ERG, right? HP is in Palo Alto.
Yep.
I'm curious, like what kind of stakeholders did you work with to engage with this partnership? And was that corporate DEI, government affairs? Who owns this relationship? What does sustainability look like for you all? And yeah, would love to hear more about that.
If you want to take it,
Yeah, I can take it,
Yeah.
and then if you want to add anything.
Sure.
So Aaron, our executive sponsor on the front row, I'm going to do another call out for him. He really helped facilitate the initial engagement and the support for that. I think from there, we also worked with our head of executive communications and corporate communications across HP. I believe she's also the executive sponsor of Global Pride.
Yeah.
And so we got her involved just so that we got her buy-in. And then we also just recently started facilitating engagement with our government affairs team as well. So that's kind of a new piece, but that's an angle that we really want to grow because we have government affairs teams that are specifically focused on Texas, so they can interact with the chambers directly to keep that going. And I would say from a core standpoint, this group up here and the other leaders you saw in some of the photos are the ones who maintain the relationship with the chamber. And we work with those other organizations within HP to make it happen.
One thing I'll also add too is the Houston Chamber was founded in 2016, so it's still pretty new. And you saw all the logos up on the screen, right? There's just so much power in seeing how that has come to evolve over the last 7 or so years. So I think that it's still kind of a new concept.
Hi, Cannon Brown, he, him, from T-Mobile, and just a few hours up the road on 45 in Dallas. So obviously I'm equally aware of the nightmare that the Texas Ledge has been for the last while. But other than partnering with the Chamber, what else has HP done in the face of this onslaught in the Ledge to protect LGBTQ employees beyond just the partnership with the Chamber?
Yeah, I wish we had our corporate affairs person here, Tunde. He's amazing. He's really new in the role. I think we've signed on to a few amicus briefs. I think that we've done a bit of that. I think we still have a lot more to do in terms of involving HP in those conversations. I think I see some HP folks nodding, and that's absolutely true. And we don't have the formula, but we continue to push on our leadership to write the letter or speak out or be ultra clear about the needs of our population. So, I wouldn't say that. I would love to have Tunde up here. He could probably give you a great list of all the ways he and the government affairs team are engaging. But I will say we continue to push on leadership to be more outspoken. We push on leadership to continue to shape benefits and continue to shape the environment in which we work. I think we consider ourselves really lucky today that we feel safe to be out at work, but there's still more we can do for sure.
Hey, I'm Kevin, he, him, from Oracle, and I happen to be in San Antonio. So my question is, I know we have the HRC index as well, which is 100% for Oracle as well, but where do you find out about the local level? Because that's the first I'd seen that. That's my first question. And the second question is, I'm a former North American region lead, and so I've seen several of my chapters already ask about the Chamber, and cost is always the same thing. DEI does not cover anything like that. Do you have any other suggestions of what we can do? Yeah, absolutely. I'll kind of break your question up a little bit. I think I'm going to start with the how to do it. You can always participate in a chamber as an individual as well, and I think if you do that, you can support a business case to get your business to go support it. So that would be what I would recommend, is you can kind of see firsthand, and you want to evaluate every investment before you make it. So I think that we did a lot of that personally, and most chambers, you don't have to be a company to join. You can join as an individual, or you can even, some events are even open to non-members, so you don't have to make the commitment of a membership to participate and get the value. Remind me of the other part of your question. HRC. Yeah, Gaston?
No, he also said something about talking about the topic of the budget to being part of the, I can cover that, but if HRC, you guys can go first if you want.
It's just the Municipal Equality Index. So it's just as they have the Corporate Equality Index, they have municipal, and it breaks down. It was actually surprising to see the number of cities evaluated. It evaluates city policy, and it's a score out of 100. So, yeah, it's great. Yeah, what city are you in? It's San Antonio's 100. Yeah. I will say that. Houston is the only city in Texas that's not at 100, which is fairly surprising.
And that index is totally separate from the corporate index. So that is for the overarching city policies. Yep.
So the other topic, I'm going to recommend you to talk probably with the local chamber. Our chamber in Houston, the board always say in their speech, if you're a small business owner or someone that can actually don't have the budget to contribute or be partnership, they always invite people to actually talk to them and be part of the chamber without any cost, because at the end of the day, they want to actually increase the community. And like big companies probably have bigger budget, they can probably cover the part that small business they can't. So probably you can figure out that in San Antonio, advice probably.
Yeah, because any chamber is always open to learn more about bringing on more corporate members, even if that budget isn't there yet. At least getting to learn and get them educated, and then you can bring that back to your company and really fight that business case of, we need to do this, we need to participate because of X, Y, Z. Exactly.
There's someone over there.
Hi, I'm Jeff Mayevsky, he, him pronouns. I'm here with Busy and Inc. based in Dallas, Texas. We have multiple locations for our corporate offices across the country. We're part of the Dallas Chamber of Commerce as a member. I was curious to know if HP, being a California-based company, has other memberships in other chambers, and if not, is that something that's on the table? And how do you represent, the other half of this question is really, how do you represent those that are in other offices, and especially large pockets of remote employees through a chamber?
Yeah. I'll take this one. So as far as I know, and I could be wrong about this, and it's also good to see you. I can reach out to you individually if I found out different information later. As far as I know, I think we're the only Pride bin with a chamber representation. So I would say if that's the case, we would likely use our relationship with the chamber to hopefully have a best case use scenario to spread that out to other locations across the country. Like I know, like we have a site in Albuquerque, we have Palo Alto, of course, with HQ. Both of those cities have LGBT Chamber of Commerces. I think we would look at what our engagement looks like with the Houston Chamber and hopefully be able to spread that narrative out to other locations. But as far as I know, I think we are the only one within HP.
Yet.
Yet.
A question here in front. Oh.
Thanks. Haven Thorne, he, him with Airbnb. So I have a question around the chamber. You know, I know that it kind of represents like a lot of corporations and they kind of lobby on our behalf, but what are your thoughts on the LGBT chamber's reach into the local community? Do you think they're respected, and what kind of, you know, pooling and resources do they have to kind of galvanize the LGBT community in whatever city like Dallas, and how does that reflect in the partnership?
Yeah, I'll take this one. So the founder of our chamber in Houston, we're really lucky to have her because she is so fearless. She is so well respected within the community. You know, I think for her, she has made a lot of progress in just a few years. She has really tight connections with the mayor's office and city council. On a personal note, I'm working to serve in some way for the city myself, in a capacity that they call boards and committees. So they make recommendations to city council, and so they have different committees that you can get involved with as a volunteer. Some cities have those, some cities do not. I think Chicago has them, but it's basically a way that you can, you know, as your own person, not necessarily representative of your company, can get involved. And the benefit to our chambers is just they've made a lot of those connections to help bring more folks closer to Mayor Sylvester Turner, who's a super supportive of LGBTQ in Houston. So we're kind of lucky in a few different ways, but it helps to have an ultra engaged chamber with a really clear mission.
I would also add that her relationship with the community isn't strictly business. I think you covered that some of the nonprofits that we've identified and worked with for philanthropy have been actually through the lead of the chamber in Houston. So it's not simply an interaction between other corporations and small businesses. It goes beyond that, where we're actually plugged into other local nonprofits so that we can support them.
Yeah, I think one more thing to add on too is part of the chamber of how one thing that I was notified through the chamber is another organization called Victory Fund. So they focus on, they're nonpartisan, but they focus on LGBTQ plus people who are running for political positions. So they really want to educate people like, who do you want to vote for? Educate them of who's running. So that was another way that the chamber kind of plays a part with us. And it's not only, as they said, not only just businesses.
Hey, my name is Mario. I am with Wells Fargo in Dallas-Fort Worth. We actually were able to get re-engaged with the LGBT Chamber last year, and we actually increased our engagement this year. So really excited about everything you guys had said here, and your experience is very similar to what we're experiencing in Dallas. My question, selfishly, is just I saw a bullet on there about how you're partnering with other businesses in your market to potentially bring programming or even different events to your members and such. So I wanted to hear some examples about that.
Yeah.
I can take this one.
And I can talk about the vendors as well.
That sounds good. Yeah, so we actually just launched a pilot, and I see a couple friends in the audience who are members of this. But we launched a new pilot called the Meet and Share program, where we're trying to learn through other large corporate partners that we have relationships with what their engagement looks like and what their needs are and what they want to accomplish. So for instance, you may have seen that we have a 100 in the corporate equality index, but we want to reach more out into the community to do things within the greater Houston region. We have other companies where they aren't yet at a 100 within the corporate index, so they want to learn from us in terms of how they can get there. So I would say that's the first thing that we're doing, is how we can just partner to learn initially. We kicked off this program a month ago, so it is very much in its infancy, but it's something that we're doing so that we can hopefully learn and pull different aspects to support each other in Houston.
I'll add one other thing, is I think for ERG leaders in the room, you probably feel like you get low engagement, or you have sometimes a small community post-pandemic of people who might show up to an event. But the beauty of these types of programs is that you can actually make sure you have a big showing to something by partnering. But Marcus.
Yeah, and I think also going on a supplier side, when you get to partner with other companies, especially when they're small businesses, you really get to help them make their brand awareness a lot more affluent and more visible. So like, as I mentioned during the presentation, that during our Pride Month, we had a happy hour. All the companies that we partnered with and brought in were either part of the chamber or LGBTQ owned or allied owned. And they're small companies, they're wanting to grow. And so partnering with them, there's a benefit to both ends. We get a new vendor, and we get to bring them in and really get to expose them. And also it's great brand awareness for them.
Any other question?
I love to see Texas showing up big today.
Oh yeah.
Great.
So
I think that's it.
So if you guys don't have any question, we actually, like I said before, I'm gonna repeat it just in case, but you can go to the session, scroll down. We have an attachment there with our deck. So we have our email there. So any other question after this meeting, this workshop, and that you guys kind of want to ask or share or learn something, just email us. We're happy to help and share whatever we achieved. So I guess that's it, right?
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen.